Ranked at number 10, the weakest member of the Akatsuki is Hidan. In fact, this is not even up for debate. Hidan himself admitted that he was the slowest member in the entire organization. Although his movements are somewhat agile, they lack any real precision or complexity. Hidan relies almost entirely on close-range combat, and his only long-range attack is throwing his weapon and then pulling it back using a rope attached to it. In reality, Hidan possesses only one actual technique. To be fair, it's an incredibly dangerous one. If he manages to capture his opponent, they'll die instantly. But if the enemy knows how to evade, dealing with him becomes relatively easy. Moreover, his jujutsu technique requires very specific conditions to be fulfilled, making it difficult to execute in the middle of a fast-paced battle. Any shinobi with mid to long-range defensive jutsu can completely neutralize Hidan's attacks, preventing him from drawing blood to activate his ritual of Jashin. In practice, Hidan was defeated even by Asuma's team. When facing Shikamaru, Izumo, and Kotetsu, he was beaten so badly that Kakuzu had to stitch his head back onto his body. And keep in mind, they had no prior knowledge of his abilities at that time. This clearly proves one thing: Hidan is far from invincible. Later, Hidan was even defeated by Shikamaru alone, in one of the most humiliating ways possible. Yes, Shikamaru had time to prepare, but let's be honest, no amount of preparation would have allowed him to do that against any other member of the Akatsuki. With all that said, Hidan's position at number 10 on this ranking is completely deserved. Next, at rank number 9, we have Kakuzu, the second weakest member of the Akatsuki. Although ranked second to last, Kakuzu is still far stronger than Hidan. In fact, the power gap between ranks 10 and 9 is quite large. However, compared to the rest of the Akatsuki, Kakuzu remains near the bottom of the hierarchy. He possesses an extremely powerful defensive technique, Earth Release Earth Spear, which hardens his skin to the point of being almost impenetrable. But its weakness is also clear. Lightning release techniques or high-level ninjutsu like the Rasen Shuriken can completely pierce through it. Kakuzu has 5 hearts, meaning he effectively has 5 lives, a clear advantage. However, in actual combat, those hearts were destroyed rather quickly. Even though he might be more skilled in taijutsu than Kakashi, many still argue that their fight was merely an even match, not one where Kakashi was dominant. And it's important to remember that at that point in early Shippuden, Kakashi had not yet reached his peak strength, and was significantly weaker than in later arcs. Moreover, that battle was far from fair. For most of the fight, Kakuzu had Hidan's support, while Kakashi had to fight alone while protecting Ino and Choji, who were practically useless in that encounter. In other words, Kakashi was fighting under extremely unfavorable conditions, and yet Kakuzu still couldn't overpower him. It's true that Kakuzu might have won if Shikamaru hadn't destroyed one of his hearts using a strategy based on Hidan's blood. But even then, Kakashi never used his Mangekyo Sharingan. If Naruto's team hadn't arrived, Kakashi could have easily used Kamui, and Kakuzu would have had no counter against that technique. Looking at Kakuzu's offensive jutsu, they are all basic elemental techniques. They are strong, but to surpass a certain power threshold in the Naruto world, you need something more. Every other Akatsuki member possesses jutsu that are far more unique and specialized, not just elemental-based attacks. Yes, Kakuzu can use all 5 nature transformations, but what's so special about that? Kakashi can also use all 5 natures, and Hiruzen Sarutobi even more, and he was vastly stronger. Having every nature transformation doesn't make someone a god. What truly drags Kakuzu's ranking down is the fact that he was defeated twice in a row by Naruto. Right at the beginning of Shippuden, twice, Naruto hit him directly with the Rasen Shuriken, and Kakuzu couldn't even react. Naruto used just 3 shadow clones to distract him and then struck him twice with Rasen Shuriken. At that time, Naruto only had a thin 9 Tails chakra cloak, which was barely significant. He didn't have Sage Mode, 9 Tails chakra mode, or any advanced abilities. Simply put, this was a basic Naruto, who had just learned the Rasen Shuriken, no special speed, no major advantages. And yet Kakuzu was hit twice in a row. The first Rasen Shuriken dissipated midair because Naruto hadn't fully mastered it, but the second connected directly and completely finished Kakuzu. No other Akatsuki member except Hidan would have made such a careless mistake. Some might argue that Kakuzu was tired, but according to his own words, he was even stronger after merging the wind and fire hearts into his body. Therefore, there's no real excuse for his defeat. His rank at number 9 is entirely justified. Ranked at number 8 is Zetsu. Here, we're referring to the original Zetsu within the Akatsuki, the unified form of Black Zetsu and White Zetsu. Therefore, when discussing his power, we have to consider the abilities of both halves. Many people tend to underestimate Zetsu, assuming he's merely a lackey or a spy. but in reality, Zetsu is much stronger than most realize. The original White Zetsu, the one fused with Black Zetsu during the first half of the series, possessed several unique abilities that are often overlooked. It's true that the White Zetsu clones seen during the Fourth Great Ninja War weren't very powerful, but the original body had access to the Spore technique, an invisible jutsu that drains the target's chakra and allows Zetsu to parasite onto others. At the Five Kage Summit, he used this very technique in the middle of the meeting without anyone noticing, not even the Kage themselves. In addition, White Zetsu could transform into other people, and more impressively, replicate their chakra signature, making it nearly impossible to tell him apart from the real person. The only reason Naruto was able to detect him was because of the so-called power of kindness, allowing him to sense the hatred within Zetsu, clearly a narrative device, but one that shows how the ability functions. As for Black Zetsu, during the Fourth Great Ninja War, he demonstrated remarkable abilities. He was able to keep up with Mei Terumi, the fifth Mizukage, along with roughly 20 elite Jonin bodyguards. Later, even when a Nine-Tails Chakra Mode clone of Naruto appeared, Black Zetsu still managed to hold his ground, even tripping Naruto and making him miss his Rasen Shuriken. We all know that Kurama Mode Naruto possesses speed on par with the fourth Raikage, who was considered the fastest shinobi of his era, yet Black Zetsu was still able to keep pace. In the end, he was only struck by Chojuro when the latter extended his sword, but even then, Zetsu was not killed and managed to escape. Beyond combat, Black Zetsu also wields terrifying abilities such as wood release, chakra absorption, and the capacity to utilize the skills of whatever body he possesses. When he controlled Obito Uchiha, he was even able to use Kamui effortlessly. In essence, Black Zetsu is the physical manifestation of Kaguya Tsutsuki's will, meaning all of his powers are weakened versions of techniques originating from Kaguya herself. Indeed, he has demonstrated the ability to shoot bones from his palms and open interdimensional portals. What makes Zetsu truly dangerous, however, is not just his strength but his intellect and manipulative power. He influenced and deceived numerous legendary figures including Indra, Madara, Obito, Nagato. It was Zetsu who engineered the hatred between the Senju and Uchiha clans by altering the text on the stone tablet left by the Sage of Six Paths at the Naka Shrine, which Madara later discovered, unknowingly becoming Zetsu's pawn. Ranked at number 7, Sasori of the Red Sand. Sasori does not possess any truly destructive offensive techniques. His most dangerous weapon is his poison, which is extremely lethal, but not something particularly difficult to counter. In fact, Sakura Haruno was able to neutralize his poisonous gas using nothing more than an explosive tag. Of course, if Sasori lands a hit with his poison, his opponent will almost certainly die unless they have an antidote like Sakura. But most of the high-level shinobi on this list are fast enough to evade his attacks. For those at the Kage level or higher, the chances of being poisoned by Sasori are practically zero. The most notable weapon in his arsenal is the third Kazekage puppet, which can manipulate iron sand. This is a powerful technique, but it clearly pales in comparison to the real third Kazekage when he was alive. Even Gaara, during that same arc, demonstrated sand power dozens of times greater than Sasori's iron sand. Sakura was even able to shatter those iron constructs with a single punch, showing that their destructive force wasn't particularly terrifying. And while Sakura was strong at that point, she still hadn't reached her full potential. Yet she managed to destroy every puppet she touched. One punch to break Hiruko, one punch to crush the third Kazekage puppet, and one punch to strike down Sasori's true body. Within just a few minutes, his entire 100-puppet technique army was completely wiped out. You might argue, but Sakura was strong. And that's true, Sakura was indeed powerful. However, every other member of this ranking possesses far greater firepower than she did, and could have destroyed Sasori's puppets just as easily, if not more so. In terms of speed, Sasori doesn't fare much better. For most of the battle, Chiyo had to control Sakura's movements using chakra strings. And even when Sakura moved on her own, her speed was roughly equal to Sasori's. This shows that Sasori was not fast. In fact, he was relatively slow by Akatsuki standards. It's clear that Sasori is not weak. He's still within the Kage level range, since the only Akatsuki member below that level is Hidan. However, Sasori simply isn't as strong as the remaining members on this list. As for Deidara's claim that Sasori was stronger than him, that's completely false. This has been clearly proven through the events of the series. Even Deidara's basic explosive clay bombs have enough power to destroy all of Sasori's puppets, as their explosive force is roughly equal to Sakura's punches. And if Deidara were to use his stronger bombs, such as the C3 he deployed against the Hidden Sand Village, every puppet in Sasori's arsenal would be instantly obliterated. Ranked at number 6, Deidara. Many people don't truly understand how powerful Deidara actually was. When he died, he was only 19 years old, meaning he still had enormous potential that had not yet been fully developed. The most basic explosions of Deidara already had destructive power equivalent to, or even greater than, the strongest punches of Sakura in early Shippuden. But that was only the beginning. He possessed a series of techniques with far more terrifying destructive power. For example, C3, a bomb capable of obliterating an entire village in a single explosion with a force comparable to a tailed beast ball. And the frightening thing is that Deidara could release C3 quite easily, without any significant sacrifice or drawback. He could also fly. In a world where most shinobi are bound to the ground, the ability to fly is a huge tactical advantage. It allows him to control distance, attack from above, and avoid almost all close-range assaults. He also possessed other extremely powerful techniques. C2 Dragon, a massive clay creature that can continuously fire bombs while keeping Deidara in the air, out of reach of most opponents. C4 Karura, one of his deadliest techniques, capable of killing an opponent in a single attack unless they meet 3 conditions. First, possessing lightning release to neutralize the microbombs. Second, being able to see the tiny nanobombs in the air. And third, being intelligent enough to understand how they function. And finally, C0, Deidara's self-destruction technique. Even though it costs him his life, this jutsu is powerful enough to take down any member of the Akatsuki along with him, except Obito. He was also trained to resist genjutsu, which is extremely useful when facing different kinds of opponents. His speed was also remarkable. Unlike Sasori, who was struck by Sakura, Deidara managed to dodge several of Sasuke's attacks, and everyone knows that Sasuke at that time was one of the fastest shinobi in the entire series. Not only was he powerful, but Deidara was also incredibly creative in battle. He could shape his explosive clay into any form that offered a tactical advantage. In his fight against Gaara, he even used a clay centipede to burrow through Gaara's sand defense and detonate from the inside, a move that was both intelligent and ruthless. Ranked at number 5, Konan. The underestimation that the Naruto community has toward Konan is truly unreasonable. She is far stronger than most people believe. Konan could defeat every member ranked below her on this list, even without any preparation time. Konan's entire arsenal revolves around her paper ninjutsu. But don't let that fool you. This is an extremely destructive technique. She can create countless paper blades and paper bombs from thin air, and even split herself into hundreds of paper clones, each one capable of exploding with a power comparable to Deidara's bombs. Konan could also fly, and she was the best flyer in the entire Akatsuki. In a world where most shinobi are bound to the ground, the ability to fly is an enormous tactical advantage. It allows her to control distance, dominate in long-range combat, and evade nearly all close-range attacks. Moreover, she was almost immune to physical damage. Konan could completely disperse her body into paper, similar to how Suigetsu Hozuki liquefies into water. When attacked, she simply separated her body, avoiding injury entirely as long as she still had chakra. To defeat Konan, an opponent would need to completely exhaust her chakra, which is no easy task. During the attack on the Hidden Leaf Village alongside Pain, Konan fought against the entire village, including the Aburame clan, one of the most underestimated yet dangerous clans in the Naruto world, and she still held her ground impressively. As for her fight with Jiraiya, many claim that he overpowered her, but that's not the truth. Jiraiya only temporarily immobilized her using a bit of oil, a moment that has been greatly exaggerated by fans. Konan wasn't afraid at all. Even when cornered, she remained composed, and if Pain hadn't been there, the outcome of that battle might not have been as one-sided as people think. However, Konan's ultimate moment came during her battle with Obito. In this fight, she unleashed her most powerful technique, the Paper Ocean, a terrifying jutsu consisting of over 600 billion explosive tags, forming a sea of explosions that lasted 10 full minutes. Obito survived only by activating Izanagi, one of the most broken techniques in the entire shinobi world. Aside from Obito, the only Akatsuki member who could have possibly escaped that attack was Deidara, simply because he could fly. For all these reasons, Konan fully deserves her number 5 ranking on this list. Ranked at number 4, Kisame Hoshigaki. Kisame is one of the true monsters of the Akatsuki. Nagato himself confirmed that Kisame possessed the largest chakra reserve in the entire organization. Not only that, Kisame was also the strongest water release user in the shinobi world, even surpassing Tobirama Senju, who was renowned as the master of water style. Kisame wielded Samehada, one of the 7 ninja swords of the mist, a legendary blade with the terrifying ability to absorb an opponent's chakra. He once defeated Killer Bee, one of the most powerful characters present at that time. Kisame could drain his opponent's chakra until they died, while simultaneously healing his own injuries using the chakra he absorbed. He only lost to Might Guy, and the sole reason for that defeat was that Guy was Kisame's natural counter. Additionally, Kisame's water prison shark dance technique is truly terrifying. If the opponent lacks teleportation abilities or a unique power to escape, they are almost guaranteed to drown inside it. Despite his brutal nature, Kisame was one of the most loyal members of the Akatsuki. He was willing to sacrifice himself, choosing suicide over betrayal to protect the organization's secrets and the ideals he believed in. Ranked at number 3. Itachi Uchiha. Itachi was not someone with massive chakra reserves or infinite stamina. He also didn't possess broken abilities like Obito Uchiha. And if Itachi were placed in the same situation as Pain during the invasion of the Hidden Leaf Village, honestly speaking, I don't think he could have performed better, mainly because of his limited chakra capacity. However, that doesn't mean Itachi was physically weak. He fought Sasuke Uchiha in an extended battle, still had enough strength to crush Orochimaru midway through, and continued fighting until his final breath. So, saying Itachi was weak is completely wrong. The only limitation he had was his chakra pool, which couldn't compare to monsters like Nagato or Obito. He possessed Amaterasu, the black flames that incinerate anything in existence, Tsukuyomi, a genjutsu capable of breaking a person's mind in an instant, and Susanoo, wielding 2 of the most powerful spiritual treasures, the Yata Mirror, an impenetrable shield, and the Totsuka Blade, a weapon that can seal anyone it pierces for eternity. But what made Itachi truly terrifying wasn't just his power, it was his intelligence. Itachi was the most intelligent member of the Akatsuki, far surpassing any of his comrades. He analyzed, strategized, and controlled every battle with almost superhuman composure. His reaction speed was also remarkable, fast enough to keep up with Naruto Uzumaki in early Kurama mode. From a very young age, Itachi displayed overwhelming talent not only within the Uchiha clan, but also compared to the veteran Jonin of the Hidden Leaf Village. He was a prodigy recognized by the entire village. In short, Itachi Uchiha is the perfect combination of power, intellect, and skill. Ranked at number 2, Pain, or more precisely, Nagato Uzumaki. The Pain form represents the most accurate version of Nagato during his time in the Akatsuki, as it was the form he controlled while he was still an active member of the organization. Pain possessed god-level destructive power. He controlled 6 different bodies, each wielding a unique ability of the Rinnegan. This made fighting him nearly impossible, because even if one body was destroyed, the remaining 5 would continue fighting. Among Pain's techniques, the 2 most famous are Shinra Tensei and Chibaku Tensei. Shinra Tensei can obliterate an entire village with a single strike, while Chibaku Tensei, a divine-level jutsu, can pull in the surrounding terrain and imprison the target inside a massive celestial sphere suspended in the sky. In addition, Pain could absorb any ninjutsu, nullifying almost all chakra-based attacks. He also had access to extremely dangerous summoning techniques, such as the 2-headed dog that can endlessly multiply itself. The Asura path granted him a mechanical body with overwhelming firepower. The human path could extract a person's soul with a single touch. And the Naraka path had the ability to revive all 6 bodies of Pain after they were destroyed. During the invasion of the Hidden Leaf Village, Pain faced dozens of Jonin, killed Kakashi Hatake, and completely annihilated the village with a single Shinra Tensei. What's even more impressive is that after all those battles, he still had enough chakra left to fight and overpower Naruto in Sage Mode. If Kurama hadn't intervened, Nagato would have unquestionably won that battle. And the number 1 spot undoubtedly belongs to Obito Uchiha. No surprise here, Obito tops this list mainly thanks to his extremely broken and unbalanced abilities. And honestly, it's completely unfair to the rest of the Akatsuki because Kamui is an ability that defies all logic. His power to phase through solid matter and absorb anything into the Kamui dimension renders nearly every ninjutsu in the shinobi world useless against him. Fundamentally, if you can't touch your opponent, you can't defeat him. Moreover, Obito was also a master of genjutsu. He was able to control Yagura, the 4th Mizukage, and turn the Hidden Mist Village into a tool serving his own purposes. Within the entire Akatsuki, the only member who might have even the slightest chance of defeating Obito, and that's a big maybe, is Itachi Uchiha. Everyone else, including Pain, practically has no chance of winning. Why? Because even Pain's most powerful techniques, Shinra Tensei and Chibaku Tensei, are completely useless against Kamui. Obito could simply absorb each of Pain's bodies one by one into his own dimension until none remained. Of course, to truly end the fight, he would still need to face Nagato's real body, but that wouldn't change the final outcome. Even if Nagato summoned the demonic statue of the Outer Path, Obito could still neutralize it using Kamui, just as Kakashi Hatake once severed one of the statue's arms with Kamui during the Fourth Great Ninja War. Obito could defeat any other Akatsuki member without exception. And here, we're referring specifically to the orange mask version of Obito, the one active during his time in the Akatsuki. If we include the white mask version or Jubito form, then the difference becomes even more overwhelming. Obito was stronger than every other member, but not invincible. His power still had limits, and Konan proved that. She nearly killed him with her Paper Ocean plan, forcing Obito to use Izanagi to survive, one of the most broken techniques in the shinobi world. Even Obito himself admitted that if Itachi had known all his secrets, Itachi could have found a way to kill him. This shows that while Obito stood at the top of the Akatsuki, he was not an all-powerful god. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos.